I'm Phil Jones, and I was a correspondent for CBS News for more than 30 years. During that time, and probably during my entire life, the biggest story has been Vietnam. Vietnam has changed the world. It was the introduction of drugs, the introduction of protest, and the United States, and matter of fact, the world has never been the same since. I was covering the trial of Lieutenant William Calley, who was accused of killing men, women, and innocent little children in a little village in Vietnam called My Lai, when I received a call from CBS in New York asking me to go to Vietnam. Frankly, I figured that by the time I told my wife that I was going to Vietnam, that would probably be the end of my career. Guess what her surprise answer was?
I said, I think it'd be a great opportunity. I'd never been out of the country before. I guess I was a little naive because he had to cover the war, and I didn't think about that much. I guess I thought about myself more. I think Paul was 5 and Pam was 10. Repulse Bay, a hotel, for 2 weeks alone with the 2 children. My husband was in Okinawa. Then he finally came back, and we flew to Vietnam.
You decided that it would be fun to go to a war zone. Did you ever have any close calls, or where you thought you might not make it?
When they fired tear gas into the street, Pam and I were there. We took off running, and that was the only one I ever experienced. So I guess I was very lucky. Pam went to an international school, and Paul went to French Vietnamese nursery school.
How did the kids respond to the Vietnamese cuisine?
Pam loved it, but Paul, he wasn't too fond. He'd just cross his arm and put him on the table and never eat anything.
You didn't speak the language?
No.
You didn't speak French?
No. But a lot of them spoke English, So you can make do. That's what I did, just made do. I really don't have any regrets going to a war zone. Nothing happened to me.
Well, but in Vietnam, in the war zone, how did the kids interact between themselves?
Well, I don't think it was really good for them to be there. They saw the homeless people and, here outgoing and incoming and this type thing, which is not good for anyone. I was an adult and it wasn't even good for me. I went back to Vietnam 30 years later, and it was a fantastic trip.
And Saigon, where we had lived, was now called Ho Chi Minh City.
Right, yeah, but I still call it Saigon.
And it still remains the heartbeat of
Vietnam.
For me, going to Vietnam was an interesting experience. Journalists never really feel like they're going to be killed. They're so concentrated on doing the story, and the Vietnam story just had so many angles that you didn't think about the fact that you might come back in a body bag. And I had the great opportunity to go on a B-52 mission that left from Thailand.
Thailand officially was neutral, but the bases were there and busy, as Phil Jones discovered in 1971.
U-Tapao is the home of the B-52s in Southeast Asia.
And we dropped, I don't know how many tons of bombs. And the B-52 was really the workhorse for the Air Force during the Vietnam War. Being a correspondent, Vietnam was something that you had to have your card punched. Covering a war really does make you grow up quickly. Every time I did a story in the Vietnam War, I knew that it had to be fair and it had to be balanced. And it was very difficult during that time because that was the beginning of the drug culture and all of the protesting back in the United States. And so I felt a responsibility to get it right.